Hi, everybody. How are you? How are you? How are you? I'm sorry I was not here live yesterday. Hopefully you got my message that I was going live today instead of Wednesday this week. For those of you who are new to the group, hi and welcome. And I always go live. Well, oh my gosh, I can't mute myself yet. Come on. Thank you. Okay, here we go. All right. Sorry. Okay. The technology always looks a little bit different, I swear, every single week. Anyway, hopefully you were not looking for me yesterday. I was traveling yesterday, so I moved this week's live to today. I hope you're doing great and having a great week. I have a couple little nuggets for you today. I think today will be a little bit shorter than usual, but we will see depending on whoever joins and depending on how long I kind of riff on this topic, which I probably could talk about forever. So today we're talking about the power of the pause and specifically the hidden power of the pause. So I want to talk a little bit about what do I mean by the pause. I think a lot of times when people talk about what I consider the pause, they mean like, hey, you need to take some time off and you can't just always be working. It's not sustainable. You know, your brain works better when it has rests, all of those things. And while all of that is completely true and valuable and a big piece of what I stand for and a big piece of how I help my clients to run their businesses in a way that helps them to sustainably run their business, because you can't just keep running. Every marathon needs a little pit stop with a water bottle, right? While all of that is true, that's not the topic for today. We're sort of just assuming that all of that is true before we even, as sort of like the preface for this conversation. So we're, again, I've actually been talking a lot about I've been talking a lot about taking time off, about having a schedule that suits you, and about changing it up when you need to. That is a big way that I support my clients. It's a big thing that I think I find myself helping my clients with, even when that's not what they initially brought to me. That oftentimes when you want to reach a certain goal or when you have something specific that you want to create in your business, how you spend your time is a big piece of how you make a change from going from the old way to the new way, whatever your new way is going to be. And making changes to how we run our schedules, to how we do our work is actually super important. And so I talk about that a lot. And I've been taking a lot of extra time off this summer. If you've been around my space lately, I've been talking about that. I didn't plan to take the amount of time off that I took this summer, but I felt really, I want to say called, and almost like, have you ever just had a sort of a conversation with yourself where you're like, yeah, this is not a choice. The decision is made for me by me, but it's just sort of like, it's just so obvious. It's time to take a break. And while I've been serving clients and doing my work, and I've been showing up here every week as well, live with you guys, I have been taking a considerable amount of time off the last few weeks, and I've got maybe one more week left of that before I sort of start to transition into what my new schedule will be. And there's so much value in that. And I've been having conversations with my client, of course, right? Because life imitates art, art imitates life. For those of you who are practitioners, I know you know that whatever you're going through, you're oftentimes going to be attracting clients or already attracting clients that are going through similar things. It's just the way it works. And I think it's really beautiful. And so I've been talking about this with a lot of clients, and I've been talking about this for myself. And there's something recently that I've sort of noticed. It's not new information to me necessarily, but it's just something that has sort of been bubbling to the top of my awareness. And I wanted to share this with you while I'm thinking about it, while I'm in it, for those of you who are in your own transitions, in your own pivots, in your own transformations, whatever is going on for you. So much of what I do with my clients and so much of what I stand for is about how to how we experience change. It's what I studied in school. It's what I spent years and years in corporate doing in my consulting world. And it's what I feel is the most important element of my coaching practice, which is to help people navigate change, whether that's change that descended upon them. Oftentimes that's change they want to create. But there is a transition period when you go through changes or when you create new things, even if they are good and magical and lovely things. We go through change and we go through transition, and life is change. Life is transition. And I think it's not that we are going to, whether we choose to or not. It's how we go through that process is what I think makes life and business more fun, more valuable, more magical, more impactful, and frankly, fucking worth it. Because if you're just gonna live your life and be slapped in the face by change and feel that you are a victim to change and a victim to your life and a victim to the universe, and that you don't have any charge or control or empowerment around how you navigate your life or your business, you're just going to have a really hard time. And even if you, and I don't even mean to say like that you won't be successful or you can't accomplish what you want to accomplish, but I just find that people who learn how to deal with change in their lives and how to navigate that effectively, it doesn't mean like it's all rainbows and unicorns, but I think the people that figure out how they best navigate change in life and in business are the ones who not only are successful, because you can be successful in any way, shape, or form that you want, but they are successful in a way that brings them to a space of what I would call more total fulfillment, total success, where they're not just financially successful, but they actually are lit up by the work they do, by the ways in which they do their work, by the people that they work with, by the impacts that they're able to create with their product, their service, their gifts, their talents, etc. And I think that navigating change is, and as I said, figuring out how to do that in the best way for you is part of what I think makes successful business people, because you have a lot to respond to, you have a lot to decide, you have a lot of things that are competing for your attention. And when you can stay focused, and this is so much of what I help my clients do, is staying focused on, okay, hold on, where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? What are our values? What do we stand for? And making business decisions all along the way that line up to that, and where it is that you want to ultimately go, what it is that you ultimately want to feel as you're doing your work. That's where I think we can really be truly and purely successful in the sense of being also fulfilled, not just meeting our number goals. Dollars are important. Making money is really important. That's a big piece of the work that I do. It's a big piece of being in business. You can't have a business without not worrying, but without paying attention to money. But when something like money is the only thing that's driving you, or something like competition is the only thing that's driving you, or when something like comparisonitis is the only thing that's driving you, it just makes it a lot harder and less enjoyable to get where you want to go. And the point is here, there is no there. I mean, I know we all have goals and it feels really, really good to accomplish our goals, but you know, life is not a destination. Life's the journey, not a destination. Business is not a destination. It's a journey as well. And the more that we can remind ourselves of that, the point is to enjoy the journey. Otherwise, I just don't think there's a point. If you're not enjoying your work, if you love the work that you do, but you're not enjoying the way that you get to do it, you don't have to live like that. You don't have to work like that. So what do we mean by pausing? What do we mean by the power of, or the hidden power in the pause? What do I mean by that? So pausing can be something as basic and simple as taking time off, like actually taking time off, not like pretending to take time off, or taking time off, but being obsessed about checking your email, right? Taking time off, giving your head brain space and white space and thinking space to think about other things besides your business, or to think about other things besides anything, right? You can take time off. People take time off from their relationships. People take time off from being in a certain place. Lots of my friends are, and clients and colleagues are digital nomads, or they're like me and they travel in some way, shape, or form in their regular lives. And so for me, I need to take a break from living on my island and make sure that I'm getting the adventure travel that my soul is seeking. But then I also don't want to always be doing adventure travel. I really love working. I really love seeing my family. I really love being on this island. So finding that magical balance for me is a really important element of my fulfillment and my joy. So taking time off from whatever the thing is that you have in front of you. This is very much about business and very much about life. It's also just a shift in focus. So a shift in focus, a pause can be a shift in focus, like I'm going to not do that for a little while, right? It could be, maybe you stop doing speaking events for a little while, or you stop going to networking events, or you stop posting on social media, whatever your sort of method of choice, or maybe you stop offering a certain service for a little while, just to give yourself time and space to shift your focus to either another priority, another marketing avenue or vehicle, or to another offer. There's all kinds of ways to take a pause by shifting your focus and pausing something that you typically would do and taking sort of that time to shift it to focusing on something else for a period of time. And I think that's something that not as many people are talking about in terms of the way that I think our businesses have to evolve as they grow over time. And sometimes, you know, there's like a time for doing one thing and then there's a time for doing something else. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to keep doing that one thing, but maybe there's sort of this like pushing the levers, pulling the levers, sort of rejiggering the puzzle pieces of your business, of your life, of the way you spend your time to shift focus to a different priority for a period of time. So that can be a pause, right? So if you're shifting your focus, you're most likely pausing or decreasing time and energy and focus spent on something to shift it to something else. And then the other thing that I think when I think of the power of the pause is something that for those of you who are coaches, healers, therapists, any sort of like one-on-one, especially practitioners, there's lots of people that will experience this in their work. But I think this is something that I do with my clients a lot. It's something that my coach does with me a lot, which is when we are on a path of something and we're a little bit sort of like tied up in our thoughts around it, taking a deep breath and pausing to have a conversation with a coach, to have a conversation with your therapist, to have a conversation with your business bestie and your colleagues, to have a conversation with your team about slowing down those thoughts, looking at them, and then saying, okay, what's really going on here? Let's zoom out to that like 30,000 foot view. I was in an airplane yesterday. That's my metaphor for you today. Zoom out and look at, I was noticing, I always love to sit by the window when I fly back onto the island. And yesterday was really beautiful. It was like mostly sunny, but there were some beautiful little patchy clouds. And so there were moments where the clouds were blocking the view, and then you kind of like get a burst of the view of the island. And I love, love, love the view of this island from above when you fly in on a clear day, because it's such a different perspective from, you know, just the world that I typically live in and the way that I see my, frankly, very small radius. I probably spend most of my time within like a 2.5 mile radius, which is pretty rare for me in my life. I've always lived in big cities and taken up a lot of space, spent my time over a lot of space. And the last few years, I've spent my time in a small radius. And so I always think it's really interesting, right? And please catch my metaphor that when you fly in and you get to see where you live from above, from a different perspective. I always search for my roof and my boyfriend's roof and like looking around and trying to find, like, oh, there's my dive shop and my favorite restaurant, and just to look at it from a different perspective. So, you know, when you can take a minute and slow your thoughts down, looking at something differently, leaving, I'll keep using this metaphor. I left the island for a week. I went to North Carolina to see my family. Coming back, even my apartment feels a little different when I first walk into my apartment, and it's sort of, oh yeah, yeah, I'm here. You just sort of removing yourself from that everyday something that is on repeat has a lot of value. It's a reset, it's a shift. And I think when we're talking about it from the perspective of making good business decisions, when we can zoom out, when we can pause, and that can be taking time off, it can be some shift in focus, it can be some sort of looking elsewhere and then turning around and looking back at it. But it can also be as simple as having a call with your coach to say, this is what I'm thinking, processing, doing, and to look at that from a bigger picture perspective with someone else who can see it too, maybe in a different, always in a different way than you can, gives you a chance to look at the reality of what you have and make an intentional, clear, I would argue, strategic decision about how it would be best to move forward instead of just staying in your hamster wheel, or just frankly, like, doesn't even have to be as dramatic as hamster wheel, but just staying in your current pattern of action that may have you, just the tiniest bit stressed or frazzled. There's a value in zooming out and taking a pause and looking at what you're doing, making sure that what you're doing is taking you where you want to go or having the impact that you want to have on your audience, on your clients, on your business, on your team, on your fulfillment, whatever that is, making sure that you're sort of setting that intention. Making clear intent, setting a clear intention and intentionally moving forward as opposed to just running at something, right? So any of those things, and there's lots of other examples of pauses, but for me, that's what the pause is. So what I think most people know, and here's your reminder, if you needed a reminder to slow down. I know a lot of people, I took my vacation time in a slightly different way than when most people are taking it. I know a lot of people took time off during the summer because they have kids, and now everybody's sort of starting back to school as I was sort of pulling back. I don't have kids, so I can create that the way that works for me. But I also, reminder to take time off if you haven't, reminder that if you didn't get the time off that you wanted to from the summer, or if you're not able to do like a family vacation right now because your kids are in school, how can you start thinking forward in terms of when do we need to take time, or how can I take time for myself? 20, 30 minutes for a mom is a magical thing. How can I take time for myself if that's what you're feeling that you need? So reminder, yes, clarity, it gives you clarity, it gives you perspective. When you stop like staring at something the same way and you leave it for a minute and you come back, you can always sort of just think about it more clearly and get a little bit unstuck. And then if you're a coach or a healer or a therapist or some sort of one of those, anything, this is probably also what you help your clients do, whether you're aware of it or not, is not necessarily telling them to take time off, although you might, but to remind them like where they're running at something, driving at something so hard that they're not able to see the forest for the trees, and when you can pull them back, right? I think there's a value, there's a skill that most coaches have around like helping their clients to move forward when they're stuck and sort of just holding themselves back unnecessarily, or when they're driving at something and they actually need to pull back a minute and slow down so that they can speed up, slow down so that they can keep going at a pace that's sustainable, whatever that is, right? So helping your client to slow down or speed up, depending on what they're dealing with, I think that's something that a lot of us do. And if you're not aware of that, and maybe you're really good at taking a pause for yourself, this is also going to be a conversation for you to just help you remember sort of some of the things that you do, because I think those of us that offer services that are sometimes considered intangible have a hard time with the tangibility of that, or have a hard time. A lot of my clients would be like, well, I don't even really know like what my client results are because I don't have something tangible, right? So I could have my client that I help them double their income, triple their income, whatever. Lots of my clients did that last year. And one of my clients has said to me several times, and actually wrote in her testimonial for me recently, she said, yeah, but the intangibles are much more valuable to me. That's why I keep working with you. The intangibles are why I'm here. And so in fact, what did she say? Did I write that down? yeah, how I show up in the world, what I think and believe. Right. So I helped her with some tangible things around transitioning her business from selling her business to moving into a different business. And that was the tangible, but what she was most excited about were the intangibles. Right. So for those of you who have similar business models, this is also a reminder. This conversation about the pause is a reminder around the things that you're able to help your clients do, where you can create tangibility out of what people call intangible. Okay, I hope that helps. So when we're thinking about a pause, what I want to share today is just a couple of different ways, in the same way that we talk about taking a pause helps you get different perspective. I want to offer a different perspective on the pause. Again, it's not to negate what we've been talking about, but it's to think about there are so many ways that we benefit from a pause that we aren't giving ourselves enough credit for. So for those of you who are coaches and healers, this is your opportunity, I think, to remind yourself to help your clients focus on this, because if our journey is the point, not the destination, even though we have goals that we want to accomplish in our businesses, like making more money, working with different people, writing your book, that's a tangible, right? Even though we have those goals, that's not to discount them. But if we are waiting until we reach those big goals, and the people I work with have big goals, nothing wrong with that. Those are the people I like to work with. I have big goals. I want you to have big goals. I want you to dream big. I want you to be able to dream bigger than you can right now. I think that's how we change the world, help each other, find fulfillment, enjoy our lives and our businesses. So this isn't about that, but it is about when we're only focused on achieving that goal and nothing else, then we're losing sight of the journey, and we're missing the whole point, I think, of entrepreneurship, which is creating stuff and coming up with good ideas and making an impact in a way that you wouldn't be able to if you were in a bigger company. And so staying focused on the journey is actually more important. And when you can focus on the journey and the smaller milestones, like these hidden examples I want to share, then it actually makes it easier, ironically, to get to those big goals that you want to make, because you're enjoying the journey along the way. You're having fun along the way. You're not waiting to be happy. You're not waiting to call yourself successful. You're not waiting to be fulfilled by some future goal. I'll be happy when, I'll relax when, I'll finally this is my favorite, I'll finally run my business my way when I just make 100,000, right? Or run your business your way in order to make $100,000 with much more ease. And then when you get to your $100,000 goal or $500,000 goal or $750,000 goal or whatever that is, or $1 million goal, then you'll already have the business that you wanted and you won't have to unravel it, right? So one of the reasons, the hidden power I see in a pause of any sort, number one, one of the hidden powers of the pause in any sort is to be able to do exactly what I'm talking about, to say, when you can take a pause, when you take time off, when you look at something else instead of the thing you've just been driving towards, when you take your gaze away from it for a minute, when you return back to it, you will inevitably notice how far you've come, or how close you are to your goal compared to maybe where you were 6 months ago. When we are in it, it's really hard to see the forest for the trees. And especially this is especially important if you have a big goal, because you're not going to be checking that shit off once a month, right? There is no checking off a big, huge, massive goal every single month. It's just not realistic. It's not sustainable. I don't want to, you can make as much money as you want. You can do anything you want. I believe anything is possible. And most often those big things happen once or twice a year, whatever that big ass thing is, versus checking something off every month. And so, yes, one way to do that is to create smaller goals and milestones that you reach along the way, but not every goal, not every big project or big thing that you want to do has obvious components that you can break it up into. So if you're giving yourself a chance to pause, again, and however you want to define that, one of the hidden powers, again, this is not what I see a lot of people is they're like, okay, I'm going to pause because I'm burning out. I'm going to pause because I know I need to take time off so that I can see more clearly. I need to pause because I just like, I can't keep doing this one thing without a little break, right? And that's for anything in life, not just business. Most people do not spend 24/7 with their romantic partner, right? So one of those hidden things, powers that I think of the pause, which is never, most of the time, not the reason that the person finally allows themselves to take the pause. Speed up to slow down, or slow down to speed up is another one, right? That's the reason. Oh yeah, I'm going to slow down so I can speed up. That's great. That's all tangible. That's all great. And it's all true and valuable. But the things that happen sort of magically, the side effects, the afterthoughts, the unexpected results that happen when you take a pause is what we're talking about today. And I think it's a really big, powerful thing when you can take a pause, whether you intentionally set out to track your progress. It just is one of those things that I think tends to happen is you can then go back to whatever it is that you're doing and go, wow, I've really done a lot. I've really come a long way, whether it's a mindset journey, whether it's a tangible, dollar amount income journey, whether it's the number of clients you want to work with, whether it's updating your website. I'm updating my website right now. It is a big project. Whatever it is, when you leave it and come back to it, you're like, wow, I have done so much. Giving yourself that credit for everything that you've done versus what a lot of us do when we have big goals is, well, I'm not there yet. See the lack of me being between A and B. I'm still may not be at A anymore, but I'm certainly not all the way to B. So I'm still on the path to B. So I'm still lacking B. There's a gap between me and B, blah, 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 right? B being our future. And when we focus on that lack, when we focus on where we focus on what we're not at yet, it just makes it a lot harder to get where we want to go. But if we can celebrate by looking backwards and say, oh, wow, okay, shit, look how far I've come. Okay, I can keep doing this. If I came this far in 6 months, imagine what I could create in the next 6. That is where sustainability kicks in. That is where the power of the pause helps you to not only sustainably keep going, but to more appropriately, I would argue, evaluate your progress. I think that's one of the things that coaches and healers and therapists are really big on. I know it's one of the things that my coach does for me, and one of the things that I do for my clients is pointing out those moments of where we need to celebrate what we've done, because otherwise we will miss it along the journey. If we're so focused on that goal, we're missing the points along the way. And that's just a much more enjoyable way to get there. And it's also very practical, because when you're enjoying what you're doing, everything's a little easier. Everything's a little softer. You get out of your own way a lot more, especially when you're doing it your way, aligned to your zone of genius in a way that really lights you up. You're more magnetic. People are more interested in what you have to say. And there's just more of an ease and momentum towards where you're going. So it's very practical, but also like, why would you not want to enjoy your life and enjoy your business? And that's sort of one of my soapboxes is, if you've got a business that you need a vacation from, I mean, we all need vacations, but if you've got a business that you want to hurry up and retire from, that you need a vacation from, that you're trying to get out of, that's not my desire for you. I don't think that's your desire for you. I want you to have a business that you want to have right now, and to also be creating the next level of your business, and the next level of your business, and the next level of your business. So, hidden power of the pause, number 1, is that you can track your progress. You can see how far you've come. You can really take a minute and acknowledge yourself for what you've already done. And I find that more naturally comes. We might sort of like force ourselves to celebrate, and celebration's important. And I think sometimes we have to like hold on a minute, I have something to be grateful for here. But I think sometimes that power of the pause is that you don't necessarily, I see this with my clients a lot, they don't necessarily have to, I don't have to ask them. They don't have to sort of ask themselves. It's just sort of a natural realization that they come to of like, wow, after this vacation or after this shift in focus, or after we had this conversation where I really slowed my thoughts down, I'm able to be really proud of myself for how far I've come. Bless you. My cat just sneezed. And then similarly, but different. So one is to be able to see how far you've come. And the other is to notice that where you are and what you've accomplished, you're more able, I think, to see those tiny milestones within the big process. Because when you can celebrate those tiny milestones, you're able to enjoy you're able to enjoy the process, and you're able to, I think, look at your journey with more truth and authenticity, because at the end of the day, I don't care what your goal is. I don't care what it is that you're trying to accomplish. If you finally when you finally get there, if the way that you get there, if you finally getting there meant a lot of stress and worry and doing things in a way that felt kind of wonky for you, and working with people that you didn't want to work with, and not doing it in a way that felt aligned, that's just not as sweet. It's just not as sweet. And I think that our culture wants to tell us there's one way to do it. Or, well, I can do this, but the only way I can do it is that way, right? Or I can do this, but I can't also have that, right? That's another big one. Well, I can have a successful business, but I can't also have a good personal life, or I can't also be a mom. That was one of mine years ago. I actually eventually chose not to be a mom on purpose, but back when my 20s, when I wanted to be a mom, I was always sort of looking at it as I could either have a career or be a mom. And everybody's blowing that. Most of my clients have children. Everybody's blowing that out of the water these days. Or I can have a successful business, but I can't have, much of a personal life or a relationship, right? So whatever it is that you're telling yourself, you have to do it one way, or you can only have one thing, but not the other. There's a lot of those messages in our culture. There's a lot of those messages in the online space. There's a lot of those messages just in the world. And when we aren't able to enjoy the process that we're going through to get where we want to go, because by the time you get there, as magical and amazing it's going to be when you finally have your book in your hand. And I want to celebrate that with you too. I also want to celebrate that you got there in a way that was really meaningful and important to you too. That you enjoyed the fuck out of your life and your business as you were writing your book, as you were creating your podcast, as you got yourself to your income goal, as you up-leveled your business in the way that you wanted to, as you created your second business, whatever the big thing is that you want to do. I want you to do it your way, and I want you to do it in a way that lights you up so that you enjoy getting there, because that's the creative process. That's the point of entrepreneurship, I think. I think that's why we're all drawn to entrepreneurship, because we are all creative and we want to create, and there is a creative process on the way to. And so if you're not enjoying writing the book, but you finally have the book, is that really what you want? I don't actually think that people want the book only. I don't actually think that, right? Do you think that some of the most successful, no, I don't want to say it like that. Do you think that some of the best actors and actresses in the world set out to win an Academy Award only? That's the only goal they have, and that's all they care about, and that they will not feel fulfilled or happy or proud of themselves until or unless they receive an Academy Award? Maybe. I think there's certainly some people that are like that, but I bet you most of them are artists, like the ones that are the magical best. They are artists. They're out to create art. They're out to be the characters. They're out to work with directors and create something. And they may also want to win an Academy Award. But they're probably going to win an Academy Award if they pour their heart, minds, and souls into the work that they do in the movies and the films and the TV shows that they create, they're probably going to be better suited to win one if they do it their way, if they do it when they're focused on art. And then they can also have that goal too, right? So I don't know why that's my example, but that's my example today. If you're always just focused on your Academy Award, man, like you're going to miss out on working with the Steven Spielberg, on creating the really cool movie that never got any acclaim, but you're like so fucking proud of because of the people who were on it, the people that you worked with, the impact that it made on the world, right? Like it's not about just the tangible goals that you want. And I think so often what we think we want isn't actually what we think we want, that we actually want more than just the goal, than the thing. And while I want you to achieve the thing, I mostly want you to achieve it in a way that lights you up, because if you're not enjoying your life and your business, if you're not loving I'm going to keep saying this because I think it's great, loving the crap out of your craft and loving the crap out of how you do your work, then I want you to think bigger. I want you to think better. I want you to give yourself the opportunity to see more possibility, more truth, more, not truth, but more possibility in what you can create and the way that you can create it. Okay. So what was the other hidden power of the pause? The other one that I've noticed is there are these things that happen where when you're in the middle of a transformation, when you're in the middle of an epic mindset shift, when you're in the middle of an identity shift, when you're just in the middle of something, it doesn't have to be, you know, like a deep mindset transformation or a personal growth shift, although it absolutely happens then. It can also be when you're in the middle of making changes and transitions in your business. When you pause, again, however you define pauses, you're actually able to notice some of the other hidden powers of the pause. You're able to notice the, like, I'm just going to call them positive side effects, the unexpected things that happen when you change, because we're all integrated beings, right? Like I coach my clients in the context of their business, but the business owner is my client, not the business. The business owner is my client. And we together connect to make sure that the business is taken care of while the business owner is taken care of. But if you try to separate the business owner from the business, you're kind of missing the whole point, right? Which is why I love doing mindset work. But what happens when we make a shift in one area of our lives or one area of our business, that shift shows up in the obvious way, right? Like, let's say you decide that you make a mindset shift and a strategy shift, and you up level your offers and your prices. Okay, that's one of the like more obvious things that happens periodically, right? So you take your prices up a notch, you up level how you create, you shift your structure of your offers. There's a mindset shift there. There's a practical like strategy shift that was made that is now being put out to the world in your marketing, on your website, when you talk about your work, when you're on calls with potential clients. So that's like a tangible, like practical element of your business. It's also very strategic, right? But whatever happened for you in your mindset, as an example, as you went through that pricing shift, if you're not paying attention, it's probably showing up in other areas of your life too, because perhaps you tapped more deeply into your confidence and recognize that you actually really are as good as the new prices say you are. And you really, really tapped into that worthiness, that competence, that, or maybe you're more comfortable being more visible, and that's what's enabling you to really own those prices. Whatever it is, there's always different things underneath people's sort of stuckness around pricing. But whatever that is, you better believe that that shit's showing up in other areas of your life, and probably even other areas of your business that you might find surprising, that you might not be aware of. Like maybe then that confidence and that worthiness shift And your mindset may also show up in the way that you set boundaries with people in your life that really you need to have boundaries around, that you maybe didn't otherwise have boundaries around, right? So it could show up in your personal life. It could show up in your relationship. It could show up. One of the things that one of my long ago boyfriends used to point out to me, this is a long time ago when I lived in DC and I was working in consulting and I was quite stressed with work. He made a point to me one day and he said, I always know how stressed you are at work based on the way that you drive. Because I guess I drove like a bat out of hell when I was really stressed. And then like on weekends, I just drove more calmly and more slowly. And so he would always say like he could see it just in the way that I drive. I didn't even need to tell him what was going on at work. He could just tell. So where, and let's just look at that from a positive standpoint. It's actually something, I'm so glad that he pointed it out to me because A, I needed to be a safer driver. B, it's something that I've noticed now because it was shortly after that point in my life where I started making different choices in my career and decreasing my stress slowly until I shifted into creating this business. And I do notice sometimes now, I'll be like, wow, look at how I'm driving. I'm so calm. I'm so centered. I'm just focused on the road. Like I'm a much better driver. And I'm still to this day, this is like 20 years ago. I'm still very proud of that. Right. So that's something that I can sort of be aware of in terms of like tracking my progress or seeing how far I've come. It's still something that I notice. And that's just because I owned taking care of my own stress. I owned recognizing what my choices were around the choices I made in my life and how that created or didn't create stress and allowing myself to really do what I wanted to do in life instead of what I thought I was supposed to do or what I thought I had to do in order to support myself as an independent woman living by myself. So there will always be these powers of the pause, these unexpected things that happen. Most of the time they happen in your personal life. I can't tell you the number of times my clients have said to me, oh my God, remember the thing we talked about like a month ago? I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. I kind of forgot about it. It doesn't bother me anymore. It's just sort of a non-issue. And sometimes the pause, right? So maybe this was a mindset thing that they were working on. We made a major transformation around this mindset shift. And then we moved our coaching conversations to shift to something else because that was sort of quieted and we moved into great. I'll keep using this pricing example. How do we take that confidence shift and that mindset shift around your worthiness and adjust now to making changes in your business? Oh, it's so much easier. And they'll say like, oh my God, I went to raise my prices a little bit yesterday on my website and it was a non-issue. And a year ago, I would have been super stressed about it. 3 months ago, I would have needed 3 coaching calls in order to do that, right? And so it's those moments of like, oh my God, I kind of forgot. Like, I just now noticed that unexpected positive side effect. Like I just now noticed that this isn't a thing, or I just now noticed that I was able to set a boundary with a friend or a toxic family member. And it just came to me. I didn't have to, do it after the fact. I didn't have to talk myself into it, right? It just happened. There was another example I wanted to offer. Yeah, so I've had some massive transformations for myself this summer, and I'll be sharing some of those as well because I just think there's a lot in there to be shared. But I've really up-leveled my mindset, really related just more personally. Although obviously, again, my point of today is that it's showing up in my business already. But one of the unexpected consequences, one of the side effects, one of the like afterthoughts that I didn't even notice until I came back from vacation yesterday. So I have a almost 17-year-old cat. We have been together for that entire time. And we're quite close, right? And as you can imagine, having a 16 and a half, almost 17-year-old cat, like What crosses my mind on a regular basis? Is he okay? How long is he going to be with me? What does he need? Do I need to get him some other sort of supplement? He's actually sitting right here, and he's freaking champ. He's a beast. He's amazing. Cats really do have 9 lives. He's actually like honestly healthier than ever. And I kind of needed to leave town for a week and come back and see him to remind myself that he's just fine. And B, I'm more grateful than worried these days. I'm more grateful for fucking 17 years with George than I am worried about what the hell am I going to do when he's gone, right? Again, and nothing has really changed. Nothing tangibly has changed. He's actually gotten older in the last week, right? When I was away, nothing has changed, but because I made a mindset shift that supported me being more comfortable, more powerful, more shiny, more whatever in the world, the unintended consequence of that is that the things that used to really stress me out, that some of the things that were like, if you ask me my top 3 things that keep me up at night, making sure that George is properly cared for would be number 1. And while that can still be one of my priorities and one of my intentions for making sure that he's cared for, notice how I even just said it that way instead of like worrying that he's old, worrying how long I'm going to get to have him, worrying that I may or may not be giving him what he needs to support his older body, right? I'm not pretending that everything is perfect, but I've just noticed that it's almost like I forgot to worry about him. And I almost would have missed that if I hadn't gone away on vacation and come back and just been so excited to see him. Yes, I missed him, but the worry level is just kind of gone. And so these moments or these unintended, the hidden power of the pause is that when you stop forcing stuff, pushing stuff, overworking. And I think there's so much value, by the way, in working a lot. I have ADHD, so I'll get like full on like, somebody called it like a genius spike, where like I'm just in my zone of genius for like 9 hours straight. And then like I might not be able to accomplish anything the next day, but I get into this sort of like really magical, highly motivated, highly creative zone and I just produce shit all the time. And then that's just the way that my brain works. And I love it. It's a high, it's just how my brain works. And then it needs to relax other time. Like I just have sort of a fits and starts. It's how I work. So that I don't want to say that like working hard at something you love or working passionately or like working 8 hours a day, working 20 hours a day, whatever it is, you got to do you and you got to do it your way. And when you love it, it's great. And that drive, that level isn't sustainable. And sometimes I have to pull myself out of it so that I can sustain it, so that I can make sure I'm eating, so that I can keep creating, so that it's sustainable, so that I can go, have a personal life as well. I do have to pay attention to that and find an appropriate balance for me. But it's not about overworking. It's about overworking whatever overworking is to you. And by the way, I did a live on overworking, and I talked about how we have to define it for ourselves, just like we have to define success for ourselves. So feel free to check that out as well. If I can find it, I'll put the link in the comments, but I always put these lives in the featured section of the group so that you can see them. And so just noticing like what I think is hidden, what I think we don't notice or we might start to notice when we do take a pause, whatever that pause is to you, is where you're gripping onto something and you loosen your grip, right? The things you were worried about, you might not be so worried about. The things you were thought were important, the things maybe that you were driving towards. This happens a lot of times with my clients. They will start working with me and they'll have a specific goal. And as we progress towards that goal, they realize actually that's not the goal. It's like something underneath that or something beyond that or something next to that, right? It's sort of like the goal morphs and evolves as you start to move forward, because you morph and evolve and change and grow. And as you grow and expand, your goals shift. And it doesn't mean that like you just keep changing what you're doing and you're just always throwing spaghetti at the wall and never accomplishing anything. But that's actually like this business that I created is not the business that I set out to create 5 years ago. Oh, next week is my 5-year anniversary of my business. So what I envisioned for my business 5 years ago is not what I have now. And thank goodness, because it's so much better the way that I define it now. But I don't think what I have now is actually what I wanted then, right? And all of that is correct. All of that is good. But what I see that happens with my clients is like they'll just start to make those shifts and then something else will happen. The goal will change, or they decide the way, oh, you know what? This thing that I set out to build and I've like been working towards, I want that, but I want like a little tiny tweak of that now, because as I'm going through it, as I'm living it, I'm experiencing it, and I'm doing this thing, I actually realize I want to do a little more of this. I don't really want to do that. Right? So my offer to you is when you take a pause, and if you haven't taken a pause, again, that's not exactly what today is about, but sure, let today be a reminder that you might need to pause at some point. Notice that when you do pause, everything just sort of gets a little bit clearer. Everything just sort of comes into focus or out of focus if it needs to, in a way that just, it's like the chatter of the mind can be quieter, and you can approach the exact same situation with a clearer head. This is, I think, the value of the pause. This is, I think, the value of coaching. This is, I think, the value of having a balance in life for you that matches your preferences, that matches the season of business of life that you're in. How you're spending your time is really, really, really important. And we can't always, for those of you who like to just keep sprinting, I love you and I want you to keep sprinting. And I just want you to take some little moments of the pause so that you can see where you are on the course map, so that you can see, because you're probably running a marathon, not a sprint anyway. So you can see where you are, so you can be excited every like 2 or 3 miles that you run, so that you can take some water and replenishment so that you can keep going, so that you don't wear yourself out, so that you don't jack up your knee, right? I'm just gonna keep going with my marathon metaphor. And so that you can see from a bigger picture's perspective what's actually happening, and to notice where else in your life else is going on in your body now that you're in such good shape that you can run a marathon. What else have you noticed? Maybe you're, I don't know, I think running a lot of causes more injuries, but maybe there's, maybe you've lost weight, and so it's not hard for you to hold your body and to take your body through life anymore, right? Maybe your knees are better because you've lost weight running. I don't know, I gotta stay with my silly metaphors, but my hope is that what you'll take away today is that when we take pauses, yes, there are things that people are talking about that we know before we take a pause. We know how it might affect us. And what I want to remind you today is it's also going to affect you in even more amazing ways if you, A, let yourself take the pause, but B, also give yourself a minute to like survey your life and business from a 360 degrees when you have taken a pause, because you're going to actually, it's like, I almost want to just, you don't know what you're looking for, but when you take a minute to look, when you take a minute to ask yourself, what's changed? Or how do I want to look at this now? It's pretty magical. And I know so many of you are going through big changes right now. And I want and hope that this conversation is helpful in terms of just reminding you that change is inevitable. Change is life. It's just about how you handle it. And there's actually some, I personally love change. I think it's really beautiful. It's what I built my whole career on, but it can wear you out if you let it. And it can build you up if you let it. It can be the thing that brings life back into your life, that brings life back into your business, that brings vitality and joy and fulfillment into your business if you let it. So I would love to know where you've noticed unexpected powers in the pause, where you've noticed those unexpected side effects of some transformation you've made, some shift that you've had where it's affecting other parts of your life and business. And that's when also, by the way, you know, it was a truly like holistic and complete transformation, that when you can see it showing up in other areas of your life, you've got it, right? So that's one more reason to celebrate the changes and the shifts that you've made, because it's not about where you're going. It is about where you're going, and it's not about where you're going. It's about the journey. It's about the right now. For those of you who would like to talk about this more, for those of you who are in a transition, for those of you who would like to be in a transition, or if you just have an area of your business that feels a little stuck or that feels like it needs a little zhuzhing, I have single sessions available for, well, it's not even a single session, it's a single week of coaching. That is a really new offer. It's a thing that I've talked about lately. I've really resisted offering. People have asked me to do this for years and years and years. And I used to resist, but I weirdly am loving this idea now, and I'm offering it, and it fits my business model. It fits my new schedule. It is an opportunity for me to be able to impact more people, because I only work with people one-on-one. And so there are only so many people that I can serve. It's really serving my business in a beautiful way. So I also work with people for 3 months and 6 months at a time. So if you're looking for some real powerful transformation, please, please, please hop on a call with me. I have a spot open this month. I would love, love, love to put you in there. And if that's not something that you're looking for right now, or if you're just not sure and you want to just, you got this thing like, yeah, we'll get to the major transformation, Laura, but I got this one thing right now. That's a great thing for this, what I'm calling one powerful conversation. And you get my support for a whole week, 90 minutes of coaching, and you get my support for a whole week afterwards, so that we can really make sure that everything, because I find that sometimes when people have a session, they're like, wait, what was that? We talk about so much in a 90-minute session. So you've got me for a whole week to just sort of land details and plans and to share documents, and we'll send messages back and forth. So if that's of interest, I will put the link here in the comments. I would love to support you in that way. If you want to be one of my, what do you call it? Early adopters. You call it early adopters with technology. If you want to be my early adopter for single sessions, I've actually really never offered this before in all my 5 years in business, and I'm just thrilled to be doing it now. So come and join me. You'll be an early adopter. It's only been available for like 3 days. So if you'd like to do that with me, I would love to support you. And if you have questions, you can, by the way, if you want to do the one powerful conversation, you can either hop into my calendar now. You can pay for it and schedule it all in one fell swoop. Or if you just want to have a conversation with me, I of course offer free discovery calls if you just want to hop on a call with me and talk about whether we might be a good fit for working together and which of my programs might make the most sense for you. That's how I always work with my clients too. So that's always an option. I'll put the link here in the comments. Have a lovely day, you guys, a great weekend. Happy Thursday. I will be back next Wednesday as usual with another live, and I'll see you then.